president respects getting work done quickly, and getting work done within the parameters that he articulates. He was able to do that through some of the independent agencies in the first administration. But then, to Everett's point, in the 4 years interim, that he and many of the people who worked with him in the first administration really laid out the areas where he was most frustrated with the inertia or lack of positive forward motion, and began to put together very effective techniques in order to change those particular areas. For the first time in modern memory, I think, an explicit part of his agenda, not just to interpret and implement his agenda, but a part of his agenda was to change Washington, D.C., to really shake it up, and in doing so, accept that he was going to be butting up against the judicial branch and against the legislative branch. Not just be willing to do it, but eager to do it. So as we're moving forward through this second administration, we're seeing the fruits of that agenda that was laid out. The Impound Control Act of 1974 was one of those big areas where in the first administration we felt, around the wall and other things, that the president should be able to move money. We, the bureaucracy, felt the president should be able to move money and stop money when the case might come up, but he was stopped from doing so because of the way the ICA was being interpreted. So it was very purposefully part of this administration's agenda to change the Impound Control Act. But I think what's most important here is that when the president came into the second administration, his mindset was one of shaking up the House, challenging everything he could challenge, because he wanted to achieve his agenda. He felt a mandate from his constituents to achieve his agenda as effectively and efficiently as possible. And oh, by the way, many of the people that elected him were unemployed, felt unhappy with the way the economic system had served them since the early 2000s, and were looking themselves for a massive change in Washington, D.C. And when the president heard the outcry from the civil service as they were being laid off or their jobs were being threatened, he had that other voice in his head from people who had always been struggling for livelihood. So he had to balance how he was going to be responsive to both of those sets of voices. I think the last thing I would raise is that this is the first president in modern history who has been impeached not just once, but twice. So the ability of the legislative branch to use its existing authorities to curb the president's powers through the threat of impeachment doesn't really matter to the president of the United States.